Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Tracilyn. I'm also known as VCat, and this should be posted on my YouTube channel that I have given updated blogs since 2013, I think it is. This one is in closure with life from 2018, actually the end of October, and prior. The whole reason that I ended up here in Dayton, Ohio, and at the apartment I'm at, is a long story that I've explained for quite some time, and I'm kind of sick of talking about it. So I'm looking forward to 2019 moving forward, of discussing where I'm at and where I'm hoping to go. I'm feeling a lot better mentally. Still have my own personal challenges just like anyone else. I wanted to share some good news and to stress some disappointment. You can make up your own mind. I have had problems with the legal system, especially ever since coming out in 2007. I discussed that I was framed for prostitution, which is not true. But I had to take the guilty plea simply because I could not find an attorney who would respectfully represent me. That's a personal problem that I have with the York County Police Department that I'm hoping to address next year. Meanwhile, when I was staying in Wethersfield, Connecticut in February 2009, at that time I was on a probation period, if you will. And I had to get a permit, which I may or may not have a copy here in my filing cabinet. I had to get a copy from the York County probation officer that gave me permission that I could travel for work. She knew that I was an adult entertainer, not a prostitute. And on February, which appears that it might have been on the 7th or the 8th, approximately, I have the details written down on file, and I've already discussed about that. I was seen at a hotel, Motel 6, in Wethersfield. I had posted an ad on Craigslist. People that have been stalking me and harassing me, I found out, may have been doing this ever since the day I was born, but most certainly since I was an escort. This was part of the electronic harassment program, which I'm convinced, especially transsexual females, but adult entertainers in America, are targeted by people who invade their privacy, yes, even while they're working, watching them via satellite. In my opinion, I think it's people as well that are tied into it, that are heavily, dominantly magnified in the entertainment industry, if you will, that also partake and have things to do with it. I'm convinced that they are Satanists. With that being said, this video isn't specifically about that. It is to share the good news. Almost 9 years later, I finally got some of the possessions that were taken from my hotel room that day. And I will post links down below in relation to some of the story I've already shared, because I don't really want to repeat it all. But to give you a brush up, I was staying at a hotel, Motel 6, and I had posted an ad on Craigslist. Craigslist, for some reason, has taken down all of my ads most recently. That I had used while I was an escort and since coming out here in Ohio. I'm convinced that social network media sites like Facebook, YouTube, Craigslist, Backpage.com, etc. are kind of all tied in with a group of Satanists that like to dominate people's lives and destroy them. So I don't have the actual ad that I'm aware of with me right now that will actually post, or that I could share with you the details of what was written in the ad. But basically what I did is I posted an ad online under T-Girl Tracilyn, and I gave my cell phone number at that time. Unfortunately, I like to use Tracilyn. T-Girl Tracilyn is what I was using at the time, but I have gone under various names because of how corrupted the law was and stuff. Instead of now having one phone, which was also a personal phone / business phone, I had several phones with different phone numbers. As I got out here in Dayton, Ohio, I started to realize how everyone's tied in. And, I explain about that on my YouTube channel, about how corrupted, unfortunately, the leadership of this country really is. When I was there in the hotel, I was reading this Bible. Now, I've read several copies of different Bibles, and unfortunately, but fortunately, I no longer have them in my possession. So I either gave them away, or because I have a tendency to make markings in them and personal notes, I probably just threw it away, to be honest with you. But I'm going to read you, this here is like a notepad, and in this notepad, while I was an escort, I took notes of things that I was reading while on the road. I used to lay in my hotel beds, and I would read the Bible, and I would take notes of what was inspiring me during that time of reading. I did it pretty regularly, actually. It's what during my time of soul-searching is what I would call my time of soul-searching. I was lonely. I didn't understand personal identity like I do now. And I was trying to find the inspiration to live life in the Holy Bible. And I did. It took a long time to digest because I was fighting what the Holy Bible was teaching my brain in comparison with what I was learning from people like Joyce Myers, Joel Osteen, Dave Ashcraft from LCBC, etc., and other people that I've encountered throughout my journey in life. Whatever you do, when you read the Bible, do yourself a favor. You definitely need emotional support, but don't expect that the people you're listening to, like teachers and stuff, know what the hell they're talking about. Because when it gets down to it, they leave a lot of very valuable information out, which can lead people to a death trap. Unfortunately, in my situation, I ended up being monitored by a whole group of Satanists and people in the mainstream entertainment industry playing with me continuously. They have technology that we yet don't have access to. They invade the privacy to our home. For those of us who are songwriters, you will find out that people on mainstream music, they invade our privacy. They use things like song titles. They use case scenarios where we're singing about, like storylines they use, little riffs and hooks. They watch us while we work, okay? A lot of perverts in the mainstream entertainment industry were watching me while I was working, living life on the road as an escort. I'm also convinced that they have the means with electronic harassment to kind of make it in your brain that you will endure or suffer a great deal of mental stress, which will cause symptoms of serious side effects of major depression, high stress levels, and anger outburst. And I'm convinced that during this time, while I was heading towards back to Pennsylvania and speaking to my daddy on the phone, when I stepped on the George Washington Bridge, I'm convinced that these Satanists had access to watching me, and they were trying to get me to kill myself, okay? And I explained a lot about that, so I don't want to repeat this. This is to share the good news. Unfortunately, it took our legal system almost 9 years, and I'm still not satisfied with the end result, but I know that it's in my best interest because I love myself to let it go. Our legal system, I have learned as a little child, does not defend the righteous, okay? They usually let the criminals off quite well, and it's usually the innocent people that end up suffering a great deal of mental stress and as well at times, sometimes physical or life, okay? So what I wanted to do is share with you the day that I was in the hospital I mentioned. I got a phone call, some guy gave me a call from my ad that I placed on Craigslist. This Bible specifically, I threw it down on my bed. Let me see if I can get it this way. I threw it down on my bed. Actually, I slammed it on my bed. And I shouted to God, I don't know how, but you need to get me out of this. In other words, I don't want to escort anymore. I didn't know how to take care of myself. I had lost my dog. I was losing my place of residence. Nobody that I knew before coming out was really being the kind could act as the kind of support that I needed. I was not aware, because our government and the school system does not educate us on how to take care of ourselves in a time of need. I was not aware of things, even going to a homeless shelter. I mean, number one, who wants to stay at a homeless shelter, and what's the reasoning for it unless you're actually homeless and you absolutely need a place to stay? Why don't we prevent this before people end up homeless, and when they can't get employment, or in this situation where Tracilyn was already on probation for prostitution, a crime she did not commit. Why is it by that time, instead of the cops slapping me on the wrist and giving me a fine and creating a horrific experience in my life, why didn't they have a social worker or somebody there that would be able to assist me and help me get my needs met instead of my life spiraling out of control? Well, I'm going to be calling the York County Police Department next year, and we're going to find out where they're standing at that time. At the time that I was at York County, I remember standing in the courtroom and there was over 20 people standing there with me. We were all guilty? Do you think so? I don't. When I threw down the Bible, shortly thereafter I got another phone call on one of my many cell phones by a gentleman who was letting me know he was in the area and he would like to stop at my hotel room and see me. With that being said, I got myself ready and he showed up. He spun me around, he put me in handcuffs, and he put my head up against a wall at the hotel. Another guy had come in and he was the one that was kind of ransacking my room, while the other guy was kind of like trying to down talk me and stuff, and he was pretending to be an undercover police detective. Okay, before I go any further, I wanted you to know that I was reading the Bible and I made notes. Now, they're kind of silly is what I realized here, but I'm going to read the last day. It was Exodus 29. So if you know more about what the book's about, here we go. And I'm going to try to, script out my handwriting, So this was February 7th, 2009, Exodus 29. When God delivers us, we will know it is He, and in this way He might dwell among us. Whoever sins against God will be blotted from His book, and when the time comes to punish, He will do so for our sins. He has mercy and compassion on who He chooses, but we cannot see His face, for no one does and lives. His face must not be seen. Lord, compassionate, gracious God, slow to anger, abundant in love to faithfulness. Guilty do not go unpunished, but rather He punishes children and theirs for sins of the fathers to third and fourth generation. Do not worship any other God. He is a jealous God. The firstborn amongst to God from every offspring. Let's see what it says. Here we go. Take a day after 6 to rest. No matter how busy things get, God gave us abilities, and we should use them for what He asks. Do the work the Lord commands and be blessed. And at that time, I was dealing with being extremely lonely. I felt very strong that God was calling me into a children's rock and roll ministry. I didn't know what it looked like. There was no actual visual of it. I just felt that, music was my strongest passion, and I was truly inspired to lead worship, for youth specifically. This is after like 7.5+ years of playing to I would say probably, your working class people at a lot of venues that served alcohol and stuff, and this was getting the better of me. I was dealing with my own personal addictions, and my own household had addictions, and we all suffered from extreme high levels of depression. And can I tell you that I didn't want to feel the pains that I felt anymore, and I want to tell you that it took years, almost 4 of me living all alone in this apartment in Dayton, Ohio, to start to finally receive a healing in my brain like I never had before. And this is because I got away from being cross-contaminated with other humans' way of thinking. I feel a lot better mentally now. Obviously, dealing with the electronic harassment that I have been receiving make it kind of challenging for me, so I still have high levels of emotions, ups and downs, and anger outbursts, etc. But I'm working through it with my counseling that I've been getting over the years, and by just staying committed on focusing on my music and my endeavors. My hope is to move out of Dayton, Ohio, maybe to Columbus or back home to Lebanon, Pennsylvania. I was never, I never wanted to anchor down here in Dayton. It's just that circumstance after circumstance, and after broken promises and more circumstances, difficulties, and more refusing to assist or aid Tracilyn in her time of need, I ended up becoming in a struggle, and I had to take the apartment that I currently now have, with nobody ever being by my side to be patient, graceful in mercy, and guide me into a home that would be best for me in my circumstances. Unfortunately, I had to go through a lot of high levels of stress, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of living on the edge of almost dying of suicide many times. I've reached out, and let me ask you, what does the leaders of this country do about the electronic harassment that we endure and receive? They don't do anything. In other words, these are people that are in positions, and they're hypocrites. They don't care about us at all. They don't care about you. You don't know what I'm talking about until you're in a time of loneliness and you really are desperate and in need. You will realize that our system, the school system, has not taught us how to actually live. It was more of a distraction our whole life. When you listen to a lot of church leaders like Joyce Myers, Joel Osteen, etc., most of them speak on behalf of Lord Satan, and they leave out all the valuable and very crucial, important information that is beneficial for life of people, whether that be solo or in group unity. Well, this was my problem while I was staying in Wethersfield, and these cops, this guy that was impersonating a cop, I have a very special surprise. I found some of the information with him on the internet, and can I say I'm going to add, in addition to this video, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you the YouTube video of him being prosecuted for a crime as well that he committed. This gentleman that ended up impersonating a cop had me confused as to whether or not, was he a cop for real, or was he a cop who was impersonating a cop, or was he somebody who was not a cop but he was impersonating a cop? It was very confusing because when he spoke in a very believable, convincible manner. When doing research, I found out that he had committed some of these similar crimes, I guess either alone or with his one partner, in New York and a few other places in the New England states. So, is it true, is it not true? I can tell you that from my perspective, I honestly have a very, very challenging and have always had a hard time believing that it was anything but undercover cops who were trying to simply clean up adult entertainers' existence in operation, if you will. For this one reason, while I was staying at the same hotel back in February of 2009, I had spoke with a client, and he told me that Connecticut was on a heavy sting operation where they were basically framing strippers and adult entertainers, escorts, throughout Connecticut. Like, they were known for sting operations. And can I tell you, people, even though right now is not the time to do it, we need to start standing up for a right, because being willing to exchange intimacy for money is not prostitution if that's really what you're willing to do. Most of us are living a life of prostitution because we're going against our heart. That is what is referred when God is speaking in the Bible. Okay, prostitution is going against your own heart, which is your thought process of what you have come to the conclusion is acceptable or not acceptable behavior. The laws in our country have been created and established in efforts to oppress the general masses. And can I tell you that they have worked overtime and still continue to do so through the entertainment media. And they also do it through religious constitutions, institutions, if you will, churches, etc. Now, realizing this, but not at the time, when that happened, I was devastated, and I got to speak with an undercover detective. I explained this whole situation already about how I ended up going into the bathroom, and this guy directed me into the bathroom, the guy who had me in handcuffs, the criminal. And basically they ransacked my room and they invaded my car, taking things like my flashlight, CDs that I had in the car at the time, my cell phones. This used to be one of my favorite by AT&T, is a flip top. Okay, that was my personal cell phone, and these other two were ones I picked up because, if I'm not mistaken, after I received false charges on prostitution, and I had no other choice but to take them, I started using another identity. I knew something was corrupted. I didn't really understand at that time. It was not 100% clear at that time that people were actually watching me via satellite. As it is now, it's very clear to me. I understand. Here we go. At that time, I was up around the Boston area. So there's my Boston map. This is like a little LCBC life journal that I had while I was still Todd Michael. I got it in on January 2nd, 2006. And there's Tracilyn Michael, 2008. That was me practicing my new name that God had given me. And here is a book that a girlfriend of mine, she's a transsexual female, ordered it, and it got to me via the mail. It was 101 Alternatives to Suicide, Teens, Freaks, and Other Outlaws. I used to have a letter in here. It is true. It is from Karen. Now, evidently, I had met Karen when, I think it was in 2008, I came out here to Ohio to a You're Not Alone gathering in Columbus. And during that time as well, I was staying in Kingdom City, and an undercover tried to set me up while I was escorting. Of course, I had to escort in order to make my way out here to Columbus the first time. At that time, I did not have any other employment, so of course I'm a natural entertainer. Adult entertainment is the realm that I went. I realized that the guy was wired in this situation. They're not always wired, but in this situation I realized it, and I literally stood up against him, and I told him he had only a few seconds to leave my room or I was literally going to throw him out. Okay? It was very obvious to me that he was a legitly undercover cop. And I'll tell you what, we need to fight against that, because they should not have any legal rights to frame people or set them up or go to the hotel rooms for sting operations, okay? It's time for people to come up against this. In my opinion, the law enforcement all over the United States has been for many years overstepping their bounds, and I'm freaking sick of it myself. I can't do it alone. And obviously, the more people, the better opportunity we have to stand up for the true right that when two parties are alone together in agreement, it's nobody's business what's going on between those two parties. Okay? Eventually, I hope to touch base with that more. This is reasonings as to why it's hard to be an escort slash new girl in town had been inspired. Okay? Originally, the song was called "It's Hard to Be an Escort." And then I'm going to be releasing another version of it probably within the next few years. I've released several versions of that song, all inspired by meeting undercover officers or those impersonating while in hotel rooms. So they can inspire art quite well, poetry, writings, and books, and a lifelong testimony of corruption, how one can testify to it before the American people and abroad. Here's a note, and I'm gonna read it to you. Check it out. So I'm really excited because I started to share that this was given to me. Karen is a transsexual female. And anyone who knows me, that since I come out, I've always gravitated towards transsexual females, specifically because, especially the beautiful ones that I perceived as beautiful or intelligent, because I was inspired after going through years and years and years of a lifetime of suffering, not understanding that identity is much different than what we've been taught at birth with a body part. So Karen was one of the beautiful transsexual females that I had met. At the You're Not Alone party, I have some pictures with her and some of the people I was with that day. Daddy had taken some pictures and we posted them online, or he posted them online. And anyway, I want to read this to you. It was a letter that she wrote. And if she ever sees this video, I want her to know that I'm very, very grateful because I've been reading through some of our emails of first communication, and when I was extremely alone, you just seemed to be one of those that were there, and it was refreshing because of the circle of people I was around was totally against me coming out and said that I was a Satanist and that there was something mentally wrong with me. And the truth of the matter is I've learned that I've been programmed to be in an agreement as well, that there was something wrong with all of us. It's called the education system in America messed up our heads, and we've been lied to just about every area of our life, our entire life. So as we start to find things out, we come across other people who have already been going through it or are going through it. It's very relieving. So Karen, I want to thank you very much for this book that I never did finish because in February, my possessions were confiscated that I had with me in my hotel room at that time. So 101 alternatives to suicide, teens, freaks, and other outlaws. And if I'm not mistaken, she had it sent to me. So it was a gift that I was really excited to receive. And here's the letter. It says, Tracilyn, here are a few things that hopefully help you get through this bitter cold winter when the winter doldrums, I never heard of that word, doldrums really are kicking at full force. The book is a great read, and there are a lot of things in that I either went through, am going through, or know someone who is or has gone through. The book really allowed me to put many of life's trials into a better perspective. The gift cards are just that, gifts for you. I know you drive a lot, so I hope there are marathon gas stations where you are, and the same for the restaurant gift card. She had given me, I got goosebumps, she knew I traveled, and she had given me gift cards for restaurants and to get gas. So that was a huge help, and thank you, Karen. I actually used those gift cards. I think I remember specifically sitting at a window to my right when I was eating one of the meals that you had given me, and can I tell you that when I was eating that meal, it was like I was sharing that meal with you, and I most certainly did not feel alone. So it comforted me during my time. Thank you. Take care of yourself, and as always, you have a friend in Columbus, Ohio. If you ever get out this way again, peace, love, Karen. And she put a smiley face. Now, what do you think of that? It still brings tears to my eyes. And the reason that is because it was during a season of a lot of loneliness. And I was starting to witness how challenging life can be under those circumstances. Let's see, what else did I have? Obviously, at that time, I was using Verizon. I thought this was a great thing. Oops, Verizon Wireless. I remember I used to look forward to going to talk to them. I remember when I got this, I think it was in Harrisburg, if I'm not mistaken, that I spoke to somebody and I explained that I'm traveling and I really want my own internet service. So this came in handy at the time. Obviously, it's disconnected now and it's probably way outdated. Here's some CDs, and one of them was the software for that, USB. And that was pretty much it. What else it was, can I tell you, is here's like a high quality Dell laptop case, which is much different than the ones that I have been getting here or had gotten later years at the local retail stores. But, so that was one, and then here's the Dell laptop computer that I actually got while I was doing music as a business. I used to also DJ, and I had a DJ software on my Dell. It was, this here is an Inspiron 8600. And I think it has Windows XP. I think it's just the basic. I don't even think it's the professional. So I used to run professional on my home computer. And can I tell you, from being self-employed as a entertainer, I used to play solo acoustic guitar and sing. I did a mix of cover songs and my own songs, and I played at venues all over central Pennsylvania and abroad, like Maryland, New Jersey, and I think in Delaware too. Can I just say I talked a lot about that too? And I wanted to get away from it and do something that was more heartfelt for myself. My season of doing that was pretty much over. And I ended up in the process of losing everything. I sold off a lot of things that I had, all my guitars and my equipment that I had for my business. I ended up losing my dog, etc., etc. And what I did not or could not sell, I ended up giving away. And what I couldn't give away, I actually threw away. Because I really did not want or need the additional bills, if you will, to try to maintain my possessions in a storage. And unfortunately, I learned that people in general who have the means to do it are very selfish, okay? And you don't know this until you go through an extremely hard time. I reached out to people for a very long time trying to explain what was going on. I'm going to be dealing with all of them next year. Places like, I'm going to be speaking with the school system, the church that I had attended, my psychologist who could have saved me the hassle of going through a decade plus of a lot of heartfelt pain, okay, could have helped me resolve the matter at hand if she would have just been more careful in her observation and very firm in a diagnosis that was more suited and proper for what it is, that was in alignment with the truth as to what was really going on in my personal life. Okay, so we will be dealing with that next year and I can't wait. I feel that I'm finally at the position in life where I'm ready to move forward and leave Dayton, Ohio. I am thinking of moving to Columbus, Ohio, because I always wanted to live in or around a bigger city. And to be honest with you, I have been totally unhappy and lacking contentment ever since I came to Dayton. I originally, at that time, wanted to move to Hollywood. Because of nicer weather and because I've always been in the entertainment industry for many, 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 many years. And also, I love the beach. So that did not work out, and as I started to write songs, I wanted to relocate to Nashville so I could connect with other songwriters. And can I tell you, that didn't work out either, and a lot of it is because I was trusting this illusion of a God that is not real. If you're listening to a pastor speak online and he's telling you about trusting God, hold up right there and just turn him off, because he's full of BS, and his teachings almost had me killed when I went to Las Vegas. Okay, I have learned that there's a lot of information that needs to be taught to a human being before they can start to trust that there is no other way. Okay, when you start submitting to the true inner depths of your heart up here in your mind, I'm thinking heart here. Where do you think when somebody says heart? No, the heart of your mind is where it's at. Until you start trusting that, you will not realize how true it is that there's only one way to live continuously, and that's in the fruits of Jesus Christ, in the Christian faith. It is the only way, because you will be ganged up on by Satanists, and people in the entertainment industry they will gang up on you and abroad, and when they see that you're getting life right. Their whole goal is to eliminate you. Very evil, very corrupted, and that's what all this has to do with, believe it or not. That's what I've come to realize. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you in here. What this is all about, I'm not sharing the whole story of what happened when I was at Motel 6. I'm hoping someday God will make a way that I can take you to the hotel so I can share with you in the room that it happened exactly what happened. Okay? We're going to get ready to change this over here. We got 4 minutes. This is good. I just want to simply say that this is all that was taken from me, and can I tell you that I was at the hotel for nearly 3 days with a complete mental breakdown. I was on the phone with my best friend at the time, David, and we were talking about things, so that's the last time I really remember talking to him, and I miss him a lot. I loved him to death, and I still do care very much for him. He had a hard time with accepting, my being trans and stuff. But anyway, we were talking at the time, and can I tell you, I had a nervous breakdown. I was on the bed. I was crying at the hotel. I went in and I talked to the Wethersfield Police Department, a detective there, and I explained everything that happened. I have writings I'm going to share with you, and as soon as I transition this over to the memory card. And can I tell you, after finally coming to a place in life where I felt like I could rise up a little bit, I could barely stand up out of the bed and pack my stuff up and go, that's when I ended up driving. I checked out at checkout time at Motel 6, and that's when my car had slowed down and I came to a complete stop, put the car in park, and I was on the phone with Daddy, the person that I adopted in as my spiritual father, because I had nobody at the time, and I'm never going to stop calling him Daddy, and I always told him, and I'm going to stay true to it for the rest of my life, I am his baby girl, whether he likes it or not. His wife, I guess, doesn't care for me too much, and we're going to talk a little bit about that maybe sometime, but I think I cleared most of that. It has been a huge disappointment, because when I came out here in February to Beaver Creek / Xenia, Ohio, I explained that while I was at the house, it didn't seem to me that the detective, while he was talking to me, was really legit. So you can decide by listening to my life story as I explain about it. But I could not deal with it, and at that time I was covering a lot of my pains, drinking wine, smoking marijuana, not there at the house per se, drinking wine at the house, but I was smoking marijuana with some other people that I made friends with out here. In my opinion, Ohio is the caboose of the country and needs to legalize marijuana, because it's really not that big of a deal. Even though I'm not a strong supporter of it, I like to get stoned once in a while too. Can I tell you that as I transition this over, I'm going to read it to you, that it took me 9 years. They called me as I crossed over the bridge. The officer said that they had my stuff and I could pick it up. I knew that they knew that I crossed outside of Connecticut. I was entering in, it was at New York and New Jersey at the time. I realized that the officer, it appeared to me like he had some weird way of knowing that I was on the other side of the George Washington Bridge. Okay? So he didn't call me and let me know I could pick my stuff up while I was there. He left me know I could pick it up after I had already crossed over the bridge. Like it was a smart-ass thing. Okay? In other words, I got the hint they don't want me escorting in the state of Connecticut. Okay? I continued to go back several times all the way up until 2012 anyway. And I already shared all that on my YouTube channel. I'm going to switch this over. We're going to go into my room, but know that this stuff was found in a dumpster just not too far away from the Motel 6. Okay, I only got it back 9 years later. Okay, what I did is I collected some information in a folder on my computer. I found 2 pictures of the gentleman who I am convinced is the one that handcuffed me after walking into my hotel room. I wanted to be able to talk to him face to face, but what I've come to the realization after speaking with the detective that this gentleman most likely is not going to be apologetic. He has a very hard character about himself. So here is the gentleman. He looks to me like he's impersonating an undercover marshal. So he's been known to do this in the New England states like New York. And there he is. That is the guy, John, that when I answered my door, he ended up speaking to me for a little bit, and I realized right away something was suspicious about him. So I asked him to leave, and then he spun me around and put me in handcuffs. Here's another picture of him. I apologize that it's kind of blurry. Okay. Now understand that even though I had high heels on, to me it looked like he was still even taller than I was. So he's a little bit taller than I am, or right around the exact same height. Okay, now first I'm going to go through, I made notes. We're going to go through the notes really quick. And I'm just going to go off the top of my head. Number 1, there's going to be a YouTube video with this gentleman, John Baldassaro. Okay, so there's going to be a video at the end of this. I called him Barsardo. So Baldassaro is that the way I think it's pronounced. So we're just going to call him John. There is one with a YouTube video at the end of this video that I'm making with a trial. So I was relieved to see that he was in the custody somewhere. I actually was hoping that I could actually go to the prison and speak to him, but at the same token, the odds of him being kind to me or apologizing or any of that, and as far as to the legal system letting me get a hold of him myself with my own bare hands, I would probably do more time than he is for the crime that was committed to me. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, in the video clip, he is charged with impersonating a U.S. Marshal and deceiving 2 Chesterfield business owners in order to rob them. Okay. Now, in my notes, I noticed that. Okay, this is what I ended up putting in. Detective Anthony DeMontes. When he interviewed me in Wethersfield at the station, this is what we came up with. This is my quotes. I noticed that all 4 of my cellular phones were missing from the room. I have 3 of them over there. I don't know if I have another one here or not, but I had at least 3 of them there. A small black vinyl purse, which I never got back. 3 vibrators. I never got those back either. A prescription bottle of Advil pills, which was used in my transitional journey when I first came out. It slows down the growth of your hair on your body hair. If you haven't taken them, they really do work for that specifically. But you want to be prescribed them properly by a physician who understands what Avidart is about. A book named 101 Alternatives to Suicide, which was given to me by Karen. A hot pink holy Bible with personal writings in it. Now, That's what I have listed in these notes for the most part. My purse wasn't given to me, wasn't given back, so that was left in the dumpster evidently, and my prescription pills. This gentleman kept accusing me that I had some kind of drugs hidden in the room. He was not interested in the money I had in my purse. I had several $100s at that time. He did not touch the purse. He did not touch credit cards or any of my bank cards. It was only like vibrators and stuff that I used for my entertainment endeavors. And as well, anything for my health, like multivitamins, calcium pills, and my hormonal prescriptions. So he was pretending to speak like to outside forces, like he was bugged. He had some kind of ear monitoring device. Very convincing, I must say. I feel as though, that he was really truly a detective, pretending to be a detective to scare me, like a scare tactic to get me out of being in hotel rooms. Understand that this was short, I was on probation, and this was after being framed for prostitution, but because I couldn't get legal representative, I had to take the guilty verdict. Very challenging system to live in when they're corrupted and you're not, okay? And you don't have the means to be able to defend yourself. On May 26, 2017, this is what Anthony Demente had written. Our GA15 New Britain Superior Court State's Attorney Brian Perlasky has decided to vacate John Badossero's warrant. Okay, so this attorney Brian Perlasky has decided to vacate John's warrant. This means he will not be arrested for the incident that occurred at Motel 6. I am disappointed in this and feel terrible for you. This is what he writes to me. There is literally nothing I can do about it. I have already spoken with court about how important the case is to you, referring to me, and the effects it had on you. This appears to be an issue of prosecutorial discretion relating to Badossero's serious medical issues. So evidently while he was staying in prison where he's at, I guess in Vermont or New Hampshire, evidently something happened to his health, deteriorated pretty bad, which affected his legs, if I'm not mistaken. Among other things, apparently Badossero is severely physically handicapped and cannot walk. Our department has been in contact with authorities at the Vermont prison Badossero is currently in, and it appears as though he will serve the remainder of his sentence there. He has over 10 years remaining. So because he was being sentenced for past crimes at other places while in Vermont prison, and he had an additional 10 years yet, they were not going to go through the hassle of transporting him to Connecticut to charge him for the crimes against Tracilyn. Now let me ask you something. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the legal system kind of brushing me off? In my opinion, this should have been handled most certainly a lot differently. It seems to me, in my personal opinion, that if I were to talk to him, I would if he could be level-headed, I would probably find out that he has been being targeted, electronic harassment. In my opinion, people that have access, Satanists who have access via satellite, if this is true with what he went through in the prison, chances are they had targeted his brain. That day that I was in the hotel room and I slammed down the book, I was under suspicion that people were monitoring me very, very closely. I've learned that this is true. I also learned when I crossed the bridge, it was quite a coincidence that the cops only called me after 2 or 3 days of being in the hotel room, right? They didn't call me beforehand. And this was a call from another police station, by the way, in Hartford, Connecticut, police station, that they had my possessions, and it was only after I crossed the George Washington Bridge, after nearly contemplating whether or not I was going to jump off the bridge. So in other words, these people have access to literally playing with our thoughts and our minds. Okay? So he was used in efforts to take me out. is what I'm convinced. And they use people like that all the time to target adult entertainers. Now, here, January 13th, 2017. Okay, supposedly he was supposed to have a court date set for March 9th, 2016. Then it went into his next date. That was told to me January, for some reason, January, wow. I don't know why this is. I'd have to look into it. But according to my records right here, it says, in reference to John Baldassaro, it's Baldasaro. How do you pronounce it? January 13th, 2017, it says that his next date was for March 9th, 2016, but that doesn't make sense. And then it was May 26th, 2017. His next court date is April 27th, 2017. So they're back a month. Now I have Anthony DeMonte, October 18th, 2017. This is in reference to the other gentleman, his assailant, the assistant that was with him at the time was Zamara, and his next court date was supposed to be in December. This was in 2017, the day before my birthday that I was told this by Anthony. Now, I'm just reading these notes as I go through. In other words, what I'm telling you right now is they kept on pushing John Baldassaro court dates off, and finally, there is no more. He's not going to be charged for it at all. After 9 years, they couldn't get the job done. Okay? Now, the Zamaro, his next court date was supposed to be in December at the end of 2017, which was a year ago. Do you think it happened? Well, here's what I have for you. So I got an email on June 29, 2017 by William Durkin. John Baldassaro is currently in federal custody, and I don't know when he will be released in order to move forward with his case. Zamara, who is the second person that was ransacking my room, and he also was watching me while the other one was pretending to be a detective, Zamara cooperated in your investigation, which subsequently implicated Baldassaro. Zamara is willing to plead out to conspiracy to commit robbery in exchange for a suspended sentence. Zamara's next court date here, meaning in Connecticut, was supposed to be on August 17, 2017. Then he puts a thank you. Now, I was also speaking with a lady by the name of Heather Major from Connecticut. This is from her on December 12, 2017. Once it is ordered returned, it typically takes about 1 week for the police station to receive the paperwork from the court. In other words, now I have this as a notation. In other words, they were getting ready to ship back my merchandise. This was in December of 2017. That's over 8 years, almost 9 years before they were even thinking about sending me my possessions back. Anthony Dalmente wrote me this on February 5th, 2018. He assured me that we will be shipping it out today, and he will get back with me. He will get me the tracking number. So, in other words, the place where all my stuff was being held at, even in February 5th, 2018, which was almost exactly to the date, 9 years later, I'm finally speaking with the same detective about getting my possessions back. Finally. Okay? Technically, I wanted to let go of this. When I was going through all this mental distress, in my opinion, these people should have been seriously punished, like really, really bad. And I wanted to be there in the courtroom to speak my mind openly in front of the judge and everybody else in the courtroom to the two people that inflicted it took me years to acknowledge that I was suffering from PTSD. Is that right? Post-traumatic syndrome, is that it? Post-traumatic. I was traumatized from this. Okay, this was during a time that I started to realize the cops are corrupted. Okay, I don't have nobody to turn to. I'm losing everything. I'm alone. I'm staying in hotel rooms. I realize I'm being stalked by what I've come to realize is Satanists. The people that I was talking to that day or that week while I was staying in Connecticut at the hotel, my other customers were letting me know that there was a sting operation going on with undercover cops with adult entertainers. I was traumatized to the point that I almost jumped over the George Washington Bridge and killed myself. People can verify that when I came out here, I was smashed on my face on the floor, crying my eyes out. Months! I was next to impossible to get along with because all I could do is drink and cry. I was traumatized, and I didn't know what to do, even after I'd been in the mental institution. This is how pathetic our healthcare is in America. It sucks. God kept me alive. Man didn't give a shit about me. Well, my daddy did, to a point, okay? To a point. Daddy really did care about me. Now, here's the thing. Check this out. And so did my other friends that I ended up gaining while I was here, other transsexuals. Carol played a big part, and I don't want to go without that. Eventually, I hope to make a video thanking everybody that played a huge part, like Karen in my life, who would talk to me on the phone and stuff. But I remember speaking to Anthony Del Mente back in 2009, and I cried. Because I realized, to me, I thought he was lying to me, okay? I'll never know if this other person, John Bersardo, if that's what his name is, John Badasaro, if he really is an undercover cop or not. For the rest of my life, I'll never know that. Because our legal system sucks. And I should have had the opportunity to meet him. And yes, the taxpayers should have flown me up, okay? The system should have flown me up for free to go meet this person face to face. Okay, now here's the thing, check this out. This is by me on the 11th of February, 2018. February 11th, 2018, 9 years later. I received the property 9 years later, and I signed the form stating it, okay, shortly thereafter. I don't know where else this is going, but this is a letter by Anthony Del Mente on March 12th, 2018. So now I received all of my my possessions, not all of them. Notice that the things I needed the most to survive, my prescription medication, my vitamins, things to keep me healthy, and my toys that I used for my adult services, that's what was taken. And my computer was confiscated. My cell phones were confiscated. Any writings that I had in the room confiscated that day, okay? So the things I really needed to operate business and life in general were taken. But money wasn't taken from me. My purse, my personal purse was not taken from me. My debit cards, my credit cards were not taken from me. Okay, here's a letter by Anthony Del Mente, one of my emails. We were going through emails since I've been here in my apartment, and I was working on my music project, and I was seeking counseling, and I was also in a mental hospital. I explained I went through some challenges with that. And let me tell you something. It is scary. You don't want to enter into, unless you absolutely have to by yourself. You want to make sure that you have some kind of companion knowing what's going on in the mental hospital. Because these people, like the doctor I had recently, kicked me right out. Okay? When you're alone in this country by yourself, you don't realize how cruel people are. And there's no lawyer, there's no officer there to defend you. In fact, if they found you, they would say that you're the problem. That's how corrupted everybody is. Here we go. Hi, Tracilyn. The numbers from my March 2nd email correspond to the numbered questions from your first March 2nd email. So I evidently had some questions for him. And a lot of it was I was disappointed and upset because I found out that most likely John Badasaro was not going to be charged for crimes he committed against me that day. It took 9 years to find this out. As previously mentioned, State's Attorney S.A. Brian Perlasky. Hi, Brian. I don't like you very much, to be honest with you. I would like to meet you someday and tell you what I think about this. Decided to vacate the warrant. Brian took it upon himself to vacate the warrant. Brian Perlasky. I wish you would have been there that day in my heels when all of this stuff happened. May something happen into your life that brings a lot of trauma so you can witness what it's like, and the law, the legal system, not be there to support you through it all. In this lifetime, Brian, may you witness that. I can imagine how many other warrants were vacated by this Brian Perlasky. By the way, he probably has health benefits and he has a regular job and an income, doesn't he? And a lot of his job, most likely, is corrupted, okay? Whether knowingly or unknowingly. He is basically the head prosecutor, that's who Brian is, the head prosecutor for our court GA 15 New Britain. In order to officially hear why he vacated the warrant, I would contact Heather Major, which was another lady I started to communicate with about this case. Tell her that you want something in writing from the court, okay? As previously mentioned, I believe that it had something to do with Baldassaro's handicap status, okay? And the need for a handicapped accessible van staffed with medical personnel to drive to and from Vermont for him. Let me ask you something. Do you think I care about his handicap status? He didn't care about my time of loneliness. He didn't care about all the mental stress that I was going through. Just because my mental stress is not visual doesn't mean I'm declared disabled, mentally disabled in the United States. But you see, I'm not the main problem. It's society's unhealthy status that's the problem. And therefore, this acts up what we are diagnosed with, bipolar syndrome. Okay? Because in my opinion, this is no excuse. Why should I have sympathy because of what he's going through? He didn't care about what I was going through when he traumatized me and I almost jumped off the George Washington Bridge. I almost killed myself. I was suicidal for years because of this situation. Traumatized me. Brian, you're an asshole. I don't want to speak for S.A. Berlasky or anyone else at the GA15, and that is why I would get something from them in writing if you want an official reasoning. I cannot control what they do. I push very hard for this case to be prosecuted. That's right. And Anthony Damonte, he invested a great deal of time in this. So Brian is disrespectful not just to Tracilyn, but disrespectful to everybody who was involved in this case and the taxpayers of the great state of Connecticut. Brian should be shit-canned, and he should have to do jail time because there was a lot of money that was wasted on this case, I guarantee you, because he wanted to vacate the warrant. I don't know, what do you think needs to be done with this? See, if I lived in the state and I wanted to apply the energy, I would sue these people for doing this. The police station, whatever Brian's working for. Him. Zamora was arrested and prosecuted, though. There's an attachment that was given. He was given a 1-year jail sentence. Execution suspended, conditional charges 3 years. This basically means that he was released from custody, and if he violates conditions of his probation within 3 years, he might be sentenced to prison for 1 year. Which means all he got was probation. For traumatized, I almost killed myself, and they were humiliating me and all kinds of things. Well, this guy here, Zamora wasn't. Zamora was just kind of like a silent and quiet personal assistant to John. The last report in the PDF I sent you is the current final report. As previously discussed, I wanted documentation from court before writing an additional report. Since no one was able to provide this or find a vacated warrant, I called GA 15 last weekend was assisted in finding a copy of the vacated warrant. I do not know if anything can be done on your behalf to enforce punishment, but I would say talking to Heather Major and asking her to forward a letter written by you to S.A. Perlasky would be your best bet. I never did write him because I realized this is going nowhere. This Brian Perlasky would just be a waste of my valuable time in life in general. Every thought, whatever thought it is more valuable invested somewhere else in this world than speaking with Brian. Obviously, unless he's going through something himself, he doesn't understand what his action is actually, how it's affecting the person who's actually the victim in this situation. I can only imagine it's not just me. This is a demonstration of his work ethics within the position that he holds. Okay, my apologies for the delay. I was out for most of last week. Hope everything is well, Anthony. And can I reconfirm that Anthony has been very sweet, patient, kind. I learned some things about things that were going on in his personal life. I sent him music of songs I wrote. My relationship with Anthony has been the greatest experience through all of this circumstance. In other words, Anthony was a great blessing to me because I could be completely open about the circumstance. And I really do feel that he did the very best that he could. And I understand how even corporations work, police stations, etc., dealing with peers, dealing with people who are in certain positions, how cold their hearts can be, etc. I'm convinced that Anthony did the very best that he could. As far as to the rest of the police station, I would not agree with that. Okay? Both these people should have received more than just a slap on the wrist. And I don't want to go into the details of that at this time because I already talked about this. So that was notes that I taken. Now here's the thing. The judicial branch pending case details. This information is accurate as of March 25th, 2017 at 4:50 a.m. And what I wanted to show you is this was for Zamaro. Okay, so he was a little bit younger than I was by about 11 years. Okay, and here we go. So robbery, second degree, conspiracy to commit robbery, second degree, larceny, third degree, conspiracy to commit larceny, third degree, unlawful restraint, second degree, conspiracy to commit unlawful restraint, second degree, criminal impersonation, conspiracy to commit criminal impersonation. And now understand the first 1, 2, 3, and 4 were all felonies and the rest of them were misdemeanors. The offense actually happened on February 7th, 2009. He pled not guilty to all of them. What a coward. Would you do that? Most likely, probably so. It's in our sinful nature, isn't it? We're not guilty. Now, this is a gentleman. I think I found his Facebook profile, but I'm not 100% sure because there's only like one picture that's there. With this being said, I'm trying to get past all of this. Okay, this was at the same time frame that like the Jerry Springer show was calling me, and the lady that I was speaking to, I don't know if I have her phone number with me right now. In my past emails, I probably do. Where she was basically trying to she was inviting me onto the show, but she wanted to make sure that it would be really dramatic and dirty, like hair pulling and stuff like that. And she was really egging this on. In my opinion, there should be major lawsuits against the people and the staff from the Jerry Springer show because I've learned firsthand that they purposely want the drama to take place, obviously, as entertainment. To them, it's entertainment. It's not entertainment, okay? There's a lot more than that going on. This was right around the same season that I was in connections with them. Okay, with this lady. I was invited onto the show, but it had to be, dramatic and et cetera. And the truth of the matter is, that's not why I wanted to go on to the Jerry Springer show. I never even called them initially. She had called me. And that if anything ever came up, somebody, I want to out somebody, for instance, in a relationship of somebody that I slept with, and their partner didn't know that I was a transsexual or a female with a penis, then I should call the Jerry Springer show, right? You fucking bitch. I ought to smack you upside the head. You're an a-hole. I got your information somewhere. I'd like to stop by and flatten your tires, to be honest with you. But I'm all the way down here in Ohio. You would have to be coming through here to do that. Okay, so with that being said, the conclusion of this is I got my stuff back. Not all of it, but I got most of it. The coincidence is the Hartford, Connecticut police, is it East Hartford, did not even call me until after I crossed the bridge, which really hurt me because I was contemplating whether or not I should go back to Lebanon, Pennsylvania, if I should go buy a new computer and go back to working again, or if I should continue out here to Dayton, Ohio, to be with the gentleman that I call my daddy. And what ended up happening is I came out here, and when the officer called, I was so broken, and I was already a great distance away. I think I was already on the other side of New Jersey. If I look at the map, let me see, because this happened in Connecticut. If I'm not mistaken, I came across 80, rather than going back down and going downward onto Interstate 78 and crossing over 76. What I am convinced that I did was came across Interstate 80. And as well, let me see here. I may have actually been in Pennsylvania, at the time. So I was either in New Jersey or I was coming into Pennsylvania at the time that I got a call from the police station. And they said, and it was the way that they said it. It seemed kind of like a smart, that they were being smart and comic about it. And I can still kind of hear his voice. And all I can say is things need to happen in the United States that are more respectful to human life and human rights entitlement, and that already are in place of the adult entertainment. Most of what ends up happening to the adult entertainers is crooked on the law enforcement's behalf, not on the people who are actually doing the entertainment. Okay, I can testify this. Because of the first circumstance that happened to me with the York Police Department. I also remember getting my phone calls continuously on Craigslist, from my ads on Craigslist, where people, they try to trick you into saying certain things, and I guess they record your phone conversations and stuff. In other words, they try to get you to agree to pay X amount of money in exchange for sex. Don't ever do that. Okay, you don't have to do that. You provide adult services, period. And it's not the government's business. It's not the law enforcement's business. What you do with your personal life. Now, in the season of time like this, where you are actually assaulted, then they need to come into the picture. But I just showed you that even after 9 years, they'll let the person that was the biggest criminal off the hook. That's the United States law enforcement. It doesn't matter what state you're in, okay? They look very down on very pretty people who are okay with providing companionship with others when the price is right, okay? So what do you feel about this? What do you think? Are you an undercover cop that likes to bust exotic working girls? Is that it? Do you have something to say? Well, then leave a comment down below, or make a video and share it with us. Or are you somebody else that's also an escort or was an adult entertainer and crooked things like this happened to you? Share some of your story. I would love to hear it, myself. Did you write any songs or produce any movies, or do you tell any jokes in regards to a lot of this stuff? In the beginning, it was very, very challenging for me to deal with this. I was very high levels. I went to countless mental hospitals, to emergency rooms. I went to countless psychological and therapy and psychiatrist visits. A lot of it because of the crooked police force. Not everything, but there was a lot of it. I was traumatized over the two situations that happened to me. We're gonna let this go. I'm really excited to have finally made this video. I have come to the final conclusion. I may call to find out what actually ended up happening with this guy, but I think I pretty much explained. John Baldessaro, evidently he is handicapped at the time that I read that information, and they vacated his warrant. Okay, so no charges against him. In other words, I'm not worth it to the state of Connecticut. I'm not worth it to Wethersfield Police Department to pursue and charge against him in any manner. I'm not worth it. Okay? Why was it? Because I was an adult entertainer, do you think? You think because I'm a transsexual whore in their eyes? You think that's what it is? Do you think that there may be a possible chance that this Brian Perlasky might be a cross-dresser? Do you think he might be a closeted gay? What do you think? Do you think maybe he has it for transsexuals? Like you don't like them? Because I learned in my walk of life that in a lot of situations, it's people who are dealing with their own closeted issues that have it for people who are out and free to live their life. What do you think about this? Leave a comment. What do you think should have been done? In my moment of weakness all these years in dealing with this, and everything I went through as far as to even where I ended up living, can I tell you that I couldn't deal with this? I didn't have anybody in my life to literally sit with me and help me to go through this. And in my opinion, I probably should have had somebody like that. Now I'm starting to become more sound mentally, and I feel that now's my time to kind of not speak out against it, but have closure with it, okay? I have learned, more so or not, the legal system is not going to be in favor of life, okay? More so or not, the legal system is kind of like a chokehold, and it's a contribution to oppressing the human spirit of life. It's really sad, but I witnessed it, and it goes along with some stories that I shared throughout my life. It goes along with stories that I've heard other people speak about. I really want to continue on and just do the very best that I can with the life that I do have. I am thinking of possibly when I get to Columbus getting involved in law school, okay? Because I'm not a wimp like people want me to be. And I'm thinking of legally, or I'm thinking of literally coming to a place once I learn the court language and suing a lot of the personality types of people that were unjust to me throughout my life. And that would be one of them, law enforcement. What do you think of that exciting endeavor? Transsexual whore ends up recuperating her mental status, gets involved in law school, and now starts suing law enforcement. See, because I've learned in life that you have to come to the point that you do things that are heartfelt, this heart, that means something to you. Maybe Tracilyn will start suing religious leaders who are speaking lies that are not in alignment with biblical truth and for life. People like Joel Osteen and Joyce Myers, okay? Because a lot of what they teach, when seriously applied, will lead you into a life filled with all kinds of pain and danger. Now that's only if you actually apply their teachings in a serious manner. If you're just listening to it and you don't apply any of it, you won't really know that. I know this because I was a student of theirs for many years. Okay? And law enforcement out here in Dayton, Ohio, can I tell you, they have been very, 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 very kind to me. So at this point, I don't have anything to say about it. I'm dealing with some matters. For instance, since I've been here at my apartment, my driver's license has gone missing. My birth certificate was taken while I was living with Zot, the person I call my daddy, in Huber Heights, Ohio. My birth certificate was missing. Now, did he take it or did somebody else take it? Also, one of my legal documentations for my transgendered surgery that I had, one of them, can I tell you that legal letter, I had 5 copies and one of them was missing, and he was the only one who was with me in the hotel room at the time. So unless somebody else came into the hotel room, if he stepped out, okay? So I'm getting ready to share some of that because I have been trying to get a hold of somebody here in the law department who can add in additional notes to a police report that I made, that some things got kind of jumbled up and there was some information that was lacking. So I want to share this with you here coming up. It's very important that I make these videos because I'm convinced that I've been stalked and I've been centered targeted by Satanists for many, many years, maybe our whole lives. I'm convinced that somehow, one way or another, we have a chip in us. And via satellite, they can get readings of our minds, our thought process. They can tamper with our thoughts. They can cause all kinds of symptoms, health problems, you name it. I'm convinced that we're transitional life existences, and they can seriously affect, in a very harmful manner, our health and longevity as far as to how many years we're in human form. In other words, I'm convinced that we would live like in biblical times, hundreds and hundreds of years in our human form. However, with the satellite and lasers and stuff like that they use against us, I'm convinced that it really oppresses our it messes up our thought process, number one. It distorts everything. And also, with the saturation of everything that's in the mainstream media, in school system and in general, and through the law enforcements and stuff like that, a lot of it is used to minimize the fullest potential of the masses in the human race. Now, why that is? Well, look around. In my opinion, every time I see a broken down city called Dayton, Ohio, I think to myself, it doesn't have to be this way. There's jobs all over the place. It's just that we have really poor leaders that aren't very good motivational speakers. That's all. They don't know how to get people stirred up and get their thoughts in alignment with with the abilities that they do have and can contribute into their society as a whole. Rather, we have a horrible leadership in this country that likes to manipulate and thrust and force people against the true purposes that a human being was actually designed for. I got a lot of things to touch subject with that. Because I cannot stand a lot of the negative attitude and poor perception, even within the leadership of this country, when it comes to people who are on some kind of assistance. Its assistance is more like entitlement jerk-offs, okay? And you get so sick of hearing the way they pathetically down-talk everybody. If you really understood psychologically, you could sue just about every freaking leader in this country just for the way that they talk. They're usually mentally abusing people with their conversations that they share on television and on the radio and stuff. People like Howard Stern and stuff for what they promote. You name it. All these different people, musicians, songwriters, etc., for what's being promoted through the television, Disney, the movie, the entire movie industry, Warner Brothers, etc., for all the things that they promote, the grotesque things that are shown on a regular basis and crammed down the masses' throat. Even this movie right here I got, The Forest, okay? It's movies like this. I only seen a little bit of it. I'm not really big into watching entertainment that much. But can I tell you that I realize that they would much rather promote something that's really gross and considered slaughtering to another human being than they would to promote somebody who has a very kind, loving, caring heart and wants to promote healthy living and a beautiful life and a beautiful God. Okay? So, here we go. I am done with it. Hooray! No more. I told myself that I would be done with this, but after speaking about 2018 all the years prior, but this came up and I wanted to let you know that I finally got all my stuff. I finally got my Dell laptop. I wish I knew somebody who could work on computers really well, because I would like to kind of like have it rebuilt, if you will, in a manner that I could use it with newer software programs. It would mean a lot to me. I'm going to figure things out when I go online and stuff periodically, or I'll get books and read books on it. I need a really good laptop technician. If there's one in the local Dayton, Ohio area that is very kind and fun to be around, would love to connect with you. And as well as guitar tech too. So here we go. This is one video that Tracilyn is saying adios to. Please leave me your comments. Are you an escort right now? Have you posted ads online to Craigslist? Have you learned how corrupted Craigslist once was or is? All my ads have been completely removed from my account. Okay? In other words, it's like this mafia Satanist group is literally trying to oppress me. like a little wick in a candle went out in me. Okay, I've been being stalked for many, 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 many years. When I met Stephen C. Johnson when I was down in Nashville and ended up talking to him at his house, and then in 2012 while I was busking, I realized that I was being watched at least by him, potentially Bon Jovi, potentially Willie Nelson and his crew, and other people in the mainstream music and entertainment industry have been watching me via satellite and also harassing me, most certainly using me as a resource. And I'm looking forward to dealing with that as I'm considering moving to Columbus and getting involved in law school. There are some people in mainstream industry that I have come to the conclusion that it would probably be best for me to see them a day in court. But because I can't find any strong attorneys, I'm going to have to be the strong attorney, okay? Because since I've been living here in Dayton, I've had problems in that realm too. I had problems since coming out finding good legal representation, simply just because I'm a transsexual female, but because of the very sensitive subjects that I speak about and want to fight about in the courtroom, okay, with people like Bon Jovi, etc., because of the way they affect me just simply psychologically, okay? When I see his face, I don't like to see John Bon Jovi's face at all. It hurts my brain, okay? And hear his music and stuff like that. I shouldn't even be talking about him after all of these years, okay? But there's reasons for it. If you listen to my life story, you will find out. So, with being the fact that I can't find an attorney to represent me for a case like that, for instance, because I simply don't like to, seeing Bon Jovi's face gives me, even a headache, okay? Just because it gives me a headache. Even for that alone, and all the gruesome, detailed information that I have on that, and with people like Miley Cyrus, etc., can I tell you that the truth of the matter is I realize that I'm going to have to go to law school, and I'm the one who's going to have to sue them in court. These people that I'm convinced have been stalking me for a lot of years. And I say that because if you listen to my life story, you will find out that when I was in Delaware, I had spoke to a gypsy man who mentioned me about a guy named John who's very evil. While I was in New Jersey, people were trying to get me to go to John Bon Jovi's house while I was at the beach the one time. And also when I stepped out of my hotel room, in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, I ended up walking upon fishermen who were tied to Bon Jovi's supposed management, Doc McGee. With that being said, okay, I don't know all the details to be 100% accurate, but I can tell you from the information that I've gathered that most likely people from New Jersey have been stalking me for a very long time. So these are things that I want to combat in my lifetime and deal with. I obviously been dealing with things like when it comes to law enforcement. Dayton, Ohio has been marvelous to me. I got this report that I want to deal with because also since coming here to Ohio, I had legal documentations that were literally taken from me at the place of residence when I lived with other people. Even here, somebody entered into my apartment. I had to have the locks changed. These people have access in the music and entertainment industry and the Satanists in general. They have access to via satellite camera. They can monitor us and they observe us. And when they observe us, they also can do things like find other tenants that may have keys and get copies of the key to your apartment. Always, when you get a new apartment, low income, not low income, if it's your house, make sure that you have your locks changed and have additional keys. And don't be so sure that a lot of the stuff with your barcodes on it and stuff don't line up with things like your credit card and your debit card. Okay, and that they cannot track you down through the devices that you use, whether it's camera, whether it's anything you get with a barcode on it, even from the library, okay? All that stuff is computer generated and placed into it. So they can get a readout on all of us. And in my opinion, I'm convinced that we were given a chip at birth. Okay? And that's what the Social Security number entails. Is that it matches up with the chip that's inside the human being. With that being said, even when I was on the road as an escort, it was just too much of a coincidence that no sooner did I throw the Bible down on the bed after speaking about that guy came in, spun me around, put me in handcuffs. He was very convincing he was an undercover cop. And his partner remained kind of silent, just there to assist, but he was part of the ransacking. He's the one who took the computer. He's the one who took the additional. Well, I had a speaker set, so he took one of the speakers and he went through my car. Now imagine that. He violated me and all he got was a little bit of probation. This traumatized me, people. And it took them all these years just to get them to the point that, just to get to the point that they would even give Zamaro probation. Okay, very frustrating to see how our legal system is handled. In my opinion, there needs to be a new team of people that are formed in the United States that start monitoring the law enforcement agencies and police stations. And they also, even our leader representatives, whoever they are, whether they're in political and religious, etc., we need to get more serious. There's all kinds of occupations out there that can be established. Okay? People are seriously taking advantage over their positions and where they stand. And they are very inconsiderate into the lives of people who have endured tragedies. Okay? For me, near-death experience. That's it. I think I'm going to actually call this Heather Major and find out, if there's anything. I tried to call her once, find out if there's anything I can get in writing in regards to the final outcome, like, maybe online, if there was a printout. But the truth of the matter is, it seems to me that through it all, I actually got what I think is all I'm going to get, which is, some documents that simply state, and in writing and emails that state that Zamaro will be on probation for a couple years. And if he gets out of a line, he would go to jail. And as far as the other gentleman, John Baldessaro, evidently is still in prison and he is handicapped. And, I guess nothing's going to be done with that. What do you think? Leave a comment. And know that I love you all. I appreciate you taking time to listen to my video. I appreciate any support and all support emotionally that has been coming my way. This means a lot. And I realize that if I did not have a strong mind myself, there's no way I would have gotten through this. Okay? If you're going through any challenges, like anything that's described within my YouTube page, know that I am somebody who cares, and you could always reach out to me. I would be an emotional support. I don't have all the answers, but I have a lot of answers because of the life that I endured, and the hardships that I've overcome in many ways and still am, to the point that I'm thinking of actually going to a law school. I still want to do my musical endeavors. But because I am the center of attention by people in mainstream industry using me as a resource, I've realized that since I can't get legal representation here in the states of the United, then I'm probably going to have to go into law school myself and start suing some of these people because I'm not afraid. And what they usually do when people do step up to the platform to sue is they electronically harass them and they stalk them and they put the heat on them, so to speak. I am the kind of person that would not back down from Satanists, okay? I don't appreciate how they have tried to destroy my life, to create more hassle and problems. It saddens me to know that our country, they can't even prosecute somebody for a serious crime. They have excuses for it. They just have whatever excuse they can put in replace of actually doing a little bit of work on behalf of a citizen's life to punish these people. They would rather find a means and an ability to just write off the whole situation. Very disappointing. So, Anthony, if you come across this, know that I really value our time in communication. You were a huge part of my healing process of this specific situation, and it was challenging for me that it's taken as many years as it did, and I know you were going through some things as well with you and your family, but I just want you to know that you have made a huge difference in my life. And if I ever get to Connecticut to see this hotel room and share a video about that situation, I hope that I have the opportunity to meet you and speak with you. And if I'm ever on tour musically, I hope that it's a beautiful establishment and that if I send you an invitation, you would come out. All right, I am out of here, everyone. For now, we're going to have more video updates. I love you. And, my foot fell asleep. I got to hobble. We're going to say goodbye to this. Here's my possessions. What is it, 9 years later? 2018, so 9 years later I finally get everything back. Well, not everything, but a majority of it. My laptop computer. I had the power cord originally. I threw it away because I lost hope. I figured I was never going to get it back. I threw some things away that had to do with the possessions that I had there on the bed out of frustration. I am known, to just take things and throw it away in my times of being really sad. I feel like there's no way anything's going to ever be made right with the situation. So in that situation, I took a power cord for my Dell laptop computer and I had thrown it away. But then eventually I got another one so I could see my Dell laptop still fire up, and I seen some of the files that were still on there. And I did not show what's there. I think I just have some pictures that I used as an escort. Mr. and Mrs. Jerry Springer show, if I had that lady's name, I'll tell you, I have something dramatic for you. Why don't you do something more beneficial for the lives of the United States citizens and abroad by presenting a dramatic show where a transsexual escort, can you believe that, confronts a criminal, who is currently now in prison. Why don't you do something that's beneficial to the lives of other people instead of always on this search for people who have dirt on somebody else and can create drama, present it online? Why don't Jerry do something more serious? In fact, why don't somebody else out there do something more serious? And let's get together and go to this prison, and is it in Vermont? And let's see if we can't speak to this gentleman, Unfortunately, we already know most likely where he is at mentally. In this situation, the odds of somebody like that coming to their senses and apologizing, not. We know the nature of the beast. But in my opinion, I would like to talk to him for this one reason. I'm convinced that he was probably a victim at some point, whether before us meeting or after meeting, of being electronically harassed. Okay? And I would love to speak to him to find out if he could be sincere in his communications as to whether or not he has witnessed some level of the things that I have been witnessing from that day forward, and even prior to it is what I realize. So there are Satanists out there, and they really do have the means to be able to play with our thoughts. Okay, folks? If it's not the thought process in love, know that chances are it could be artificial thoughts that are trying to get the better of you in life. So repel them, and if you must, rebuke them in the name of yourself, of anything, Jesus Christ. How's that? Okay, so I love you. This is Tracilyn, also known as VCAT. I am going to share with you this YouTube video as soon as I get my mouse back. I put my mouse over here on my Dell laptop. It's USB. See? The Bardasoro trial, I am going to add it in conclusion at the end of this video. Why am I doing that? To show you that this is the gentleman that I had talked about several times, who had entered into my hotel or motel at Motel 6 and had handcuffed me, and between him and his partner confiscated my possessions that I claimed in prior discussion within my video series on YouTube here. Had taken my possessions and was a reasoning to how I ended up coming out here to Dayton, Ohio. And for everybody else who knew me during that time and for years after, the reasoning for a majority of my mental pain and suffering, traumatized over this situation, because I was convinced, and I still question, I finally let go of it mentally, but I still question as to whether or not he was really an undercover cop, pretending to be an undercover cop, or what the deal was. Okay, because it just seems suspicious to me that it took all the way up to 9 years for there to be any, it wasn't even closure to it yet. In my opinion, very strongly, there was no closure to it. So I may or may not call Heather Majors one last time, but if she doesn't respond, I'm letting it go. I want to let go of my past because I've invested a great deal of time researching and soul searching, re-talking about everything, and I don't want punks like this guy, okay, owning my life today and moving forward. If you're out there, there was probably 2 or 3 other girls that were working. At least one other one was ramsacked in East Hartford, Connecticut. I think I have her name. What I realized is she had a website. She was a transsexual female. She had a website, and for whatever reason, her information has been taken down. So I probably could still communicate with her. I went under T-Girl Tracilyn, and I used to talk to a few girls up in the Connecticut area. If you happen to see this video and you recognize me by any of my photographs, etc., please contact me. Facebook and the social media pages have been taking down my old images. They have been minimizing the exposure that I get through social media pages and online communications. So, but if you do come across me, know that I'm not like other people, or many other people, I should say. I'm not like many other people in the fact that I will speak to people even years later. If you haven't spoke to me in 20, 30 years, or 10 years, or 15 years, or 3 years, or 2 years, or 1 day, if you haven't spoke to me in that lengthy amount of time, know that I am a very kind-hearted person, a very forgiving person, and I'm here to talk to you. Humble yourself and just call me and be kind. That's all. I love to talk. Okay? I love you all. And here you get to see the video. Leave comments down below. I'll leave some links down underneath this video in the description box to other videos that explain more of the detail as to what happened. And for anybody who comes across this within the law enforcement police departments within the state of Connecticut and Wethersfield, Connecticut specifically, or Hartford, Connecticut, know that I did my very best to summarize this situation. I really am at the point that I don't want to talk a whole lot about my past anymore. I'm looking forward to dealing with where I'm at today and moving forward with my music, with my own life endeavors to move to Columbus, Ohio, etc., and potentially even law school. So I don't need to go out and get lawyers. I can just handle the cases myself. What do you think of that? Pretty wild, isn't it? That's what America would do. It'll make you a fighter, okay? Especially the leaders in this country. They make people fight. It's very sad. Have a nice day. Tracilyn loves you. Say it. Say, Tracilyn loves I. Bye. Yeah.
confirming whether you can read and write.
Yes, sir.
Your counsel has provided me with an acknowledgement and waiver of rights form for felonies that appears to bear your signature dated the 16th of October of this year. Do you recall this form?
Yes, sir.
Is that your signature which appears in the form?
Correct.
Did you sign it after you had the opportunity to carefully read it and to discuss it with Attorney Halsey?
I did.
Did you specifically review the constitutional rights that are set forth in the form to which you would otherwise be entitled?
Correct.
You understand that by entering pleas to these charges that you will be waiving or giving up each and every one of these rights?
I did.
Any questions concerning these rights?
No.
Are you pleading guilty to these charges, Mr. Baldessaro, because you were guilty?
That's by the second correct.
Do you admit that you committed the acts charged and intended to do so?
Correct.
Have you been advised of the maximum penalty provided by law for the offenses to which you are now pleading guilty?
Yes, sir.
This is being presented to the court on a negotiated basis, Mr. Baldessaro. In that regard, I assume the state has proposed sentencing sheets.
Yes, sir.
Specifically, with respect to both indictments, Mr. Baldessaro, the sentences of 6 to 12 years at the New Hampshire State Prison stand committed and concurrent with one another. Restitution is ordered and no contact with the victims. Is that your understanding? Any questions about that?
Yeah, 1 second, Your Honor.
You may.
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
For one note, if I could, the pretrial confinement credit is 176.
All right.